January 1st, 2022 school committee meeting. My name is Rebecca Stanton, and I call this meeting to order. We'll start with introductions to my left.
Grace Shamley, student representative.
Destine Puma.
Good evening, Mark Branco, Assistant Superintendent.
Hi, Mike Flanagan, Superintendent.
Julie Costucci.
Ryan McMahon.
Anthony Tenorella.
Joe Messina, Business Administrator.
We'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with the approval of minutes. I'll seek a motion to approve the January 11th, 2022 Budget Subcommittee meeting minutes, the January 18th, 2022 Policy Subcommittee meeting minutes, the January 18th, 2022 School Committee meeting minutes, the January 18th, 22 Executive Session minutes, and the January 25th Budget Subcommittee meeting minutes. The executive session minutes are not to be released at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries 5-0-0. We'll move on to citizen time. Seeing none, we can move on to correspondence.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's three issues I want to talk about tonight. The first one is the middle school informational flyer about the school building project did go out last Friday. I've heard positive feedback about that. That's in your drive, available for you in case you didn't receive it. Additionally, I did put in your drive a mid-watch spectator letter. It was decided recently that fans would be allowed back to mid-watch competitions effective, Mr. Ogden, help me here?
Previous Friday.
Effective last Friday. So fans are back to the stands, which is great. So that letter's in your drive as well. And finally, Mr. Messina and I did receive a few emails about this, so I just want to address the snow issue on some of the buses. Mr. Messina, can you speak to that a little bit, please?
Sure. So we actually received a couple of items, emails and some other notes about buses that had snow on them yesterday. And I did reach out to Sandra at D-Bus and tried to get a little bit of an explanation since the storm was a weekend. Really didn't understand why some of the buses did have snow on the inside, and even if they did, why the drivers weren't looking to clean that up before starting their runs. She apologized very, very profusely about it, did reach out to all the drivers to remind them that if snow were to get in, they should be clean, for us students and have them student ready. She did say that it seemed like with all of the wind during this storm, some doors, some windows did have some infiltration. Maybe they weren't closed quite tight enough. But again, no excuse for having snow while the kids are riding them, and she did ensure me that it shouldn't happen again.
So we apologize for any inconvenience to any students and any family members, and certainly we are on it, and we will be reminding D-Bus going forward every snowstorm that we have.
Dr. Flanagan, is there any talk about removing the mandate to have the windows open? I know yesterday when I went to get coffee, it was -7 degrees.
Yes.
I think it's, this time of year, it's a little much to have those windows open on the buses.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. There's certainly been a lot of conversation about it, both with my association as well as the School Committee Association, I believe. So I don't think anything formal has come down, that the federal regulations and Odessa regulations have changed, but we are certainly letting people know that we are concerned about open windows when it gets to those type of temperatures. A lot of conversation happening about it.
Thank you.
Is it a DESI regulation or a federal regulation that the windows have to be cracked?
It's federal regulation that they have to wear masks, DESI regulation that the windows have to be cracked.
Okay, thank you.
I'm correct in that statement,
I
yes?
believe you are, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is that it for correspondence?
Oh, that's it, yes, thank you, yep.
Personnel, there is none at this time. Share the success. Grace?
Last week, TES students and staff had a blast spreading kindness with the Great Kindness Challenge. They sent a special thank you to Dr. Flanagan and Mr. Messina for joining them on the morning news. TES ended the Great Kindness Challenge with a flower garden and messages decorated by each classroom. Tomorrow, students and staff are encouraged to wear tutus, ties, or mismatched shoes to celebrate the Tuesday on February 2nd, 2022. This day, classrooms will also be participating in the Global School Play Day, a worldwide event where schools are promoting the importance of unstructured play. Families are encouraged to read Principal Kavanaugh's SMORE regarding the arrival and dismissal processes. At the middle school, after-school clubs and sports have continued to meet. Spring Theater is having an informational meeting this week. Everyone is welcome to the first annual Winterfell Carnival on February 17th from 2 to 4. At THS, theater will be performing the 9 to 5 musical this weekend. Shows are taking place Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and the tickets are still available. In athletics, teams continue to prepare for the state tournament and recognize their senior athletes. The Student Council is holding a Valentine's Candy fundraiser to support the American Heart Association. And lastly, THS will be hosting the annual college fair on February 9th from 6 to 8. Congratulations to the members of the senior class that have begun to receive their acceptance letters.
We can move on to item number 7, the subcommittee update. And the update we have right now is about the budget subcommittee. We did meet last week, we being Mr. Messina, Mr. Bowe, and myself, and we discussed the revenue side of the budget, just preliminary revenue numbers, like nothing final yet. We also discussed the substitute teacher pay and where we stand with substitute teacher pay. And I think Mr. Messina will provide an update when we get to that section. For unfinished business, Dr. Flanagan, the middle school building project.
Thank you. So we'll jump into the slide deck now, Dr. Branco. Thank you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the middle school building project. The update is it's been a hectic week or so for left field JCJ and certainly the Central Office Administration as we work through the estimate of the cost of the projected middle school project. Independent estimators met and came together. They worked out a final number. They presented it to the district team. We've been refining the numbers with JCJ and left field. We've had several Zoom meetings to talk about the FF&E, which is fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. We've had several meetings to talk about technology and what the technology needs of the school are. And what we're really trying to do is take a projected number and refine that so that it's appropriate for Tyngsborough and TMS. I think sometimes, we've made a commitment from the get-go that we are going to be as fiscally responsible as possible with this project. So we're looking at all the nice-to-haves and making some really difficult decisions right now that are going to be presented tomorrow night to the school building committee. Long story short, tomorrow night, the school building committee will see where the original estimate came in, as well as 2 potential proposals on how we can achieve funding for the project moving forward. So we're going to continue to refine that tomorrow. We have meetings set up for tomorrow as well to present a better number tomorrow night. That number will be important because there'll be a tri-board meeting, I believe February 7th still. I believe that has not been moved, at which point we can talk about funding for that. So we're working diligently on that. More information will be presented tomorrow night, and we'll go from there. And we just want to keep those placeholders up here. As we know, May 3rd town meeting, we need a 2/3 majority to get the question on the ballot, and on May 17th will be debt exclusion vote to pass a middle school project. So we continue to plug along with the middle school project. Next piece of information is COVID-19. Just some numbers. We're in a great spot right now. Obviously, nationally, everyone's in a good spot. Tyngsborough's in a great spot. We've had a couple days this past week where we've had 0 cases in 2 of our schools, so that's very exciting. As you know, we did start the at-home testing program. So last Friday, the staff received their test kits. This week, we're hoping for Thursday or Friday this week, students will receive their test kits. On Friday of this week, contact tracing ends in the Tyngsborough Public Schools. The second we deliver the test kits, contact tracing is over. Test and stay is also over. So Friday of this week, contact tracing and test and stay, those programs are over. We will continue to practice symptomatic testing of students in school who obviously are symptomatic. But just to give you some numbers on where we are in the program, we did have 156 staff participate in the at-home testing program. We've had 622 students sign up for the at-home testing program. Again, parents were encouraged to sign up by the 27th, so they'd be eligible for these first 2 weeks. This is an ongoing process. Parents can continue to sign up right through April 1st. So if they choose to sign up, you get put into the next cycle when we receive the 2-week packets of tests. So that's where we are with that. And just some interesting numbers on the test and stay program. It was a ton of work. but it benefited our kids significantly. We administered 1,293 tests to 521 different students. Most importantly, we protected 1,276 days of school for kids through that test and stay program. So that all ends this Friday. Contact tracing's over, and we kind of move to the next phase of where we are. Next slide just shows you the numbers and where we are in terms of vaccination rates. You can see about midway down under the green heading, total, building, staff, and students vaccination percentage. At the elementary school, we have 45% vaccinated. At the middle school, we're 59% vaccinated. At the high school, we're 76% vaccinated. Again, if we go back to that DESI indicator, the threshold was 80% vaccination, then you could have the conversation about removing masks. We know the mask mandate is extended through the end of February. I envision that sometime in mid-February to late February, the commissioner will come out with another guidance as to what it will take to remove masks from students and staff. So stay tuned on that, but we're very close to that 80% threshold as we continue throughout the year. And that's all I have for COVID update.
We can move on to the budget discussion.
So this is just a high level, kind of the budget development calendar where we stand at this time. Next week, we'll have the regular transportation bid opening. That certainly is a expense that we are keeping an eye on closely. February 15th, we'll present our initial budget to this committee, and then we'll have a final budget ready for March 15th. So if we go to the next slide, Mr. Messina is going to take the next couple of slides just to kind of update the committee as to what came out from the budget subcommittee meeting.
So, thank you, Dr. Flanagan. So at our budget subcommittee meeting last week, we started to look at the non-school committee budget revenues and how they would offset your operating budget. So some of the subcategories we looked at: grant revenues actually trending higher, tuition revenues trending higher, and that's primarily because this year we were managing to get our high school exchange program back up and running that we lost due to the COVID situation. Athletic revenues are actually trending downward in terms of participation over the last 2 years. So we needed to adjust the planned budget for next year for those revenues. And then taking a number of the higher revenue sources individually under this other sources. Medicaid is trending lower, and that's primarily because of not just population, but also some of the categories that Medicaid is reimbursing now. And this is a 5-year average of what our receipts have been. And they have been trending downward over the past 5 years, so we're looking again at a lower revenue figure from there. School choice, the first line of school choice is again trying to best estimate what we think the school choice balance will be at the end of this coming June, based upon what our current needs are this year, where we are right now, what we think we're going to need, and then where we hope the account will be at the end of June. We also have a $50,000 use of next year's receipts to offset a portion of the operating budget. Student parking, we're projecting as level as we are with the facilities money for the lease. Circuit breaker is actually trending higher, and we always use this current year's receipts for next year's budget. So we hope that we'll have that full amount of this year's receipts to use for next year. Sped stabilization, we have yet to review that. We do have funding in there. As we develop the final budget, if we need to look at targeting any stabilization funds to get to a budget number, we can certainly have that discussion. And then there are 3 town accounts that we put in there. Last year, there was town cares money, $256,000 that offset your operating budget. That cares funding is now gone, so that would be 0. The host community agreement for hosting the cannabis facilities, at a tri-board last year, there was a motion to utilize $65,000 of that towards your budget. Again, something we haven't reviewed at this time. And then there's also the ARPA funding that the town has, and, you know, whether or not there'll be funding available from that in terms of your revenues. So that brings you to a $2.8 million other revenue sources. Dr. Branco, if you could slide up to the next slide, please.
Before we move on, Mr. Messina, I have a question on the cannabis funding.
Sure.
Would that need to come from the Board of Selectmen on whether or not we get any of that money?
Well, yes, I think this current year's funding, after the motion was made at the tri-board, there was really not too much of a discussion as to how the school committee has access to that money. And while being approved at a tri-board meeting or some other future meeting, it would need to go to the voters to include it as in addition to our budget. So, you know, we have $65,000 in this year's budget that we still haven't had added to our budget. But it would be something that would need to be brought up at a tri-board level.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to touch on that point, so this year's budget, we may have a 65K deficit if we don't have an article in the town meeting to move that 65K from the town to the schools.
So timing is everything on that. Mr. Messina and I have a meeting tomorrow morning with Matt Hanson and Dave Andrus at 9 a.m., and this is going to be one of the issues that we're going to talk about
Okay.
tomorrow. So we'll
All
get
right.
more information.
Thank you.
If I may, Chair, what did, and you may not have this information if you could forward it to me, whatever,
Okay.
but what did we use that 65,000 for the 256,000 on the CARES Act as part of our budget?
The 256 or the 65?
Both.
Okay,
We're not
so,
gonna have either one, so,
so there were specific items earmarked in your budget. The 65,000 for the host community agreement, that was to fund some of the salary of the health teachers, as well as an additional $10,000 for Dr. Branco and the health curriculum, to move that forward. And, you know, it was the intention at the tri-board meeting to utilize that for health-related items. For the 256,000, there was a number of technology upgrades, and I do have a detailed list I can share with the committee. It also funded our extended learning academy during the summer. Those were the two primary options, the firewall upgrades, both on this campus and the elementary school, as well as the summer academy.
okay, thank you.
And you'll recall, the Summer Academy this past year was probably the first time in several years that we provided transportation as well, because we wanted to get our kids to school, so that was a significant cost as well.
But they were more one-time costs than annual expenses for some of this stuff.
Some of them,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
So this next slide is what you actually saw 2 weeks ago. This is the expense budget overview, and a little further down, Dr. Branco, in blue are your revenues brought forward, that $2.8 million that we just saw on the last screen. So your expense increase of 331, along with the revenue decrease of 267, brings your rollover budget, and I'll stress rollover budget at this point, to slightly under $600,000 increase from last year's request, or a 2.8% increase. And again, this is strictly rolling over. We have yet to have any.
Address a lot of the needs in the district.
Correct. You know, the schools did come to Dr. Flanagan and myself with some increased needs that they want to review. And, you know, as we get further on prior to the 15th of February, when we present the preliminary budget request, you know, Dr. Flanagan will vet those a little harder with the schools, and we'll look at some other items, along with the bus bid, to bring you your preliminary budget at that point.
So still some work to be done on the revenues, and then we need to have some internal difficult conversations about what we can do, what we can support moving forward, and have some real honest conversations about how we really come back to our strategy for district improvement and do what's best for kids and meet those three big rocks. So, but right now, we're at, 2.8% increase over next year, with some work to do. And that's really all we have for budget, right, Mr. Messina? probably good there?
Yes.
All right, we can move on to 9A, the THS overnight field trip approval.
Thank you, Mr. Ogden. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us tonight. Tonight we're looking for approval for an overnight field trip to the Mass DECA Conference, which is taking place in Boston on March 10th through 12th. Sophia, Karen, and Grace are going to take it from here and give you an overview of what it entails, as well as talk about their experience in previous years.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karina Kabwa, and me, Sophia, and Grace are here to talk about the Massachusetts DECA SEDC competition. Let me just press this one. Okay. The first slide is just some pictures from 2 years ago before COVID hit. On the left side is Amy Moran Johnson when she placed in the states competition. In the middle on the top picture is just the group of states competitors that went during that 2020 year, and then below is a picture of our Quiz Bowl team, and then to the other side is Abdullah and Nick in the introduction ceremony when we first got there the first day. So what is DECA? DECA, as seniors, we've been growing and developing with DECA since it started, because it started when we were freshmen, and now over 4 years it's developed. And basically it's a career development club where students can learn about business, entrepreneurship, marketing, finance, hospitality, and management skills. And the main goal of DECA is to take situations and role plays in the classroom with peers and implement them into real life situations. Like, how can we use our skills that we've learned during our time in DECA to form businesses and relationships with people in the real world. And as students compete in the districts competition, we also, if you're chosen in your category, you move on and place into the states competition, and then hopefully into the nationals. And the SCDC conference is a state level competition.
Correct. So it would be in Boston, and it's always at the Heinz Convention Center, which is connected to 3 hotels. We usually stay in the Marriott Copley Hotel, but you don't know where you're going to end up, but that's probably what it would be. We would leave Thursday afternoon. We would come back Saturday morning, March 10th to 12th. And then there'll be 11 students who qualified for the SCDC. Our advisor, Mr. Richall, will be coming with us. The cost ranges from $400 to $500, and it covers all the food, the hotel stay, and the registration fees. We've already started our fundraising for it, so we did a popcorn fundraiser and a raffle fundraiser to help alleviate the cost. And the vaccinations will be required for everyone who goes. So
Vaccinations are required by the city of Boston or DECA or who?
the city of Boston, and then to be in the hotel or to go into the Copley place or any of those, you would need the vaccination.
Got it, thank you.
So besides competing in their event, we'll all be able to attend presentations, the award session. They also have events in the evening and workshops. So it's a fun experience where we can meet lots of new people that all have similar interests. It's also very safe and went well previous years. So last year, 5 students who competed in the SCDC went on for the international final round, and it just provided unique opportunities, and it's a lot of fun.
So that is,
what
yeah.
That was a great presentation. I'm so impressed with how well you all presented, how well you put your slideshow together. That was fantastic. Your public speaking skills are wonderful. Congratulations on that, because that's not easy. It's hard to get up in front of people and speak. So that will serve you so well in the future. And I just want to say, I don't know if this is the first time this year, but it's the first time in a long time that we've had students here, other than Grace. And it's so nice to see you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Does anybody else have any questions or?
Are any students not participating due to the vaccine mandate?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
So I'll seek a motion to approve the THS overnight field trip request for the Mass DECA conference.
And I'll second that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Or I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion, sorry.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Go ahead.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 500. Right, have a great time and good luck.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
if we wanted to buy some popcorn to support this event, where would we do that?
Yeah. I mean, like, we're always hungry.
We'll make sure that gets on social media for you to find.
Yeah.
If you would, please.
Let us know.
Or share it in your s'more.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. It was great to see you. Moving on to the academic calendar for the 22-23 school year.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the annual time of year where we do approve the calendar. I did meet with Shelby Garvin, President of TTA, to discuss the calendar. We tried to keep it as consistent as possible to last year. I think a couple things that we noticed about some of the release days last year were that they fell very close to an extended vacation, either right after or right before, so we tried to modify some of them. Some of them we just can't amend or adjust too much. I do want to bring note to September 6th. I know that it seems odd to have a release day on the second week of school, but I want to note that that is also a state primary. And we've tried to run elections in our cafeteria as well as lunches, and it's been problematic. It's been problematic for both the school and the town. It's just not a good situation. So, I think it's not the best situation, but I think it's practical and it makes sense to have a release day on that day, just so that they can have an unimpeded election. So, that being said, that's really one of the things I want to draw your attention to. The other thing was we did go out in December. We moved the release day out 1 week, the 7th there, so that report cards could be home and parents could be informed before they came for our elementary school conferences. But other than that, most of the other dates are relatively similar and/or contractual.
I just have a question. Are we going to have Good Friday, which would be April 7th? Usually we have it off.
No, we're not.
We're not. So they'll be in session? Okay.
I don't think we had it last year either.
Right.
Correct, yeah, we haven't had it for a few years.
Excuse me?
1 year?
I think 1 or 2 years we
1 or 2
haven't had
years
it.
we haven't had
We
it.
haven't had
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yep.
I don't know if we have it this year, but.
Right. So I'll seek a motion to approve the 22-23 academic calendar.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 500.
Thank you.
Moving on to finance. Mr. Messina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee was presented with 9 bill warrants tonight. I do have them all back and signed. In your drive, as usual, is the list of warrant numbers, accounts, and amounts. Also, for signing of payroll in your drive is the previous 2 payrolls from January 17th and January 31st. Again, warrant numbers and amounts are in that drive. For other finance, as the chair mentioned, we are reviewing substitute teaching and other substitute rates for next year. We have not raised them since fiscal year 17. So the budget subcommittee did review some new rates for next year, and at your February 15th meeting, I will bring that forward to the committee. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Messina.
Thank you.
School committee discussion. Grace?
Nothing much.
All right, thanks.
I just wanted to wish the theater program good luck this weekend, or to break a leg, however, we're supposed to say it. Also, in recognition of Black History Month, just a recognition to all the notable people of color who have made contributions to our country in favor as we extend through Black History Month. Is there going to be events for Black History Month at the high school or any of the schools?
I guessed, Mr. Ogden.
Okay, yeah, and have a great week.
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Ogden and his students for another wonderful presentation. Like you said, it's always amazing when they come in. It always impresses me how amazing our students are. And thank you to Dr. Flanagan for continuing to stand up for our students and deal with all this COVID issues. It's I know it's never ending, and I appreciate the nonstop commitment. So thank you.
I'm all set.
I'm all set, thank you.
Dr. Flanagan?
Congrats. Good luck to DECA. That was a great presentation. We appreciate that. And certainly good luck to our theater program this weekend as well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Well, we do have a need for executive session this evening. to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. We will return from executive session only to adjourn the regularly scheduled meeting. I'm seeking a motion to enter executive session, and this will require a roll call vote. Make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? No. And Justine?
Aye.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
In favor.
In favor.
We are in executive session. Thank you.